next to me, I was actually going to attempt, and look at how I spin my gimbal right here, just spinning, spinning, spinning. But I was actually going to attempt to use the camera utility to have like two camera angles, have the R5 connected to this live stream for like a second angle, and then use my Samsung NX1, which is what I'm using to stream. I have it set up specifically for like live streaming, and just have kind of both connections going on at the same time to just try something creative, since I only have one cam link encoder, so that I can pretty much connect and have good quality video. I wanted to use the EOS utility, but I was having an error with the R5. It was giving me some specific errors that actually might have been battery related, because I'm actually using a third-party battery system right now because I pretty much killed the battery on my regular R5 battery. So that's it. But welcome. If you're new to my channel, definitely consider subscribing. I like to talk about cameras, and specifically I've been super excited about the R5 and everything I've been able to accomplish in the past month. So if you're new to this channel, consider subscribing if you like to hear about cameras. And I'm not like the type of guy who only uses like Canon or like the R5, and specifically only the R5 or anything like that. I've got two Samsung cameras. I've got the Panasonic GH5. I've got the Blackmagic Pocket Cinema Camera 4K. And of course, three Canon cameras, 6D, 5D Mark IV, and my newest camera, the Canon R5. Now, if you don't know about the Canon R5, it's one of Canon's latest cameras to come out. It was released on July 30th, 2020, and it features such video specs as 8K raw recording, 8K compressed into H.265, which is a really good compression. And then you've got 4K at up to 120 frames per second, but of course it does 60 and 30 and 24p. And then it does 1080p at 60 frames per second, yada, yada, yada. So a lot of video features, and of course the photo specs are nothing to laugh at. In fact, they're totally loved. It's 12 frames per second burst in mechanical shutter, 20 frames per second with electronic shutter. You've got 45 megapixels on that sensor, which is full frame, and you've got the first time in-body image stabilization on the camera. It's amazing, and I've talked about it a bunch on my channel, so I'm sure you guys have been pretty sick of hearing the specs so far, so we'll move on to that. So my first month with having the camera, I was expecting to have a lot of different video situations where I would record with it, but actually what's been coming up like crazy are photography opportunities with this camera, and using it from a photo perspective has really made me not miss my 5D at all, because of the way it tracks on autofocus. The flexibility of the EVF and everything has been absolutely amazing. It's pretty much replaced my 5D. My 5D's taken a breather. And it's a backup camera sometimes when I need multiple cameras or multiple focal lengths without having to switch cameras back and forth. But I tend to lean on the R5 and the 24-70 EF lens, because I don't own any RF lenses yet, but it works great with EF lenses. And this expensive lens itself was a lot of money, so the fact that I could use it with my R5 saves me a lot, because I know the 28-70 f2 on the R mount is amazing, but yada yada yada. That's it. So when it comes to my overall thoughts on the camera, I can tell you this: I have never overheated the camera. Get straight to the point. Never overheated the camera, but it has given me those overheating warnings. And I will tell you that believe those that you see that say that the overheating is noticeably annoying, because when you're about to record an event and you've got that overheating warning like, hey, you want to record 4K 60? Well, you only have 10 minutes left. And the camera might be able, and usually does, pull off a lot longer than what it tells you on that little warning if you've got at least firmware 1.1 installed on the camera. But from that perspective, it's a little disheartening when you're like, okay, I got to really plan this shot because I've got about 10 minutes before I'm pushing this camera. So I've got to make sure I get my shots right. So from a planning perspective, you can't be as comfortable with recording with knowing that you have a limit. However, this type of limit is not something new to videographers, especially those that deal with high bitrate video, which the R5 itself is capable of very high bitrate video, just like the 8K RAW, for example, is insane. I mean, it'll cost you a fortune just to pay for the storage. But we as videographers are used to limits with recording because we have to deal with memory card space. This is not particularly an overheating issue, but when you're dealing with larger file sizes, you probably have to be conservative with your file sizes, right? So we're dealing with two time limits on the R5. Usually it's one on many cameras. It's usually, okay, you have to think before you shoot a long, drawn out 4K 120p shots for this wedding because you're going to run out of memory. But now you're going to run out of memory and you're going to run out of usability in the camera when it overheats on you. But I can honestly say that I've actually incurred more issues with running out of memory card space than I have overheating. Now granted, that's mostly due to the fact that on this camera, I'll pull it out, and this is not something that I'm sure many people will deal with, is I've got right here, let's see if it can focus on it. Okay, 64 gigabytes CF Express card. Don't buy this card. I bought this card actually, and I owned it way before the R5. It's because I bought it for the 1DX Mark III when I actually had it in from Canon to test, and I wanted to record some raw footage and higher frame rate footage on like 4K 60 on the 1DX Mark III, which was great. And that's all I really needed for it, because I was going to return the camera and I didn't have any camera that actually used the CF Express cards. So I purposely got a smaller camera. I have not bought a larger CF Express card because as of right now, I haven't missed it, and I'm waiting for Canon to release their latest version of their firmware, which is set to have C-Log 3 and an even lighter version of Canon RAW, which I don't think it's going to be able to record to SD card, but at the same time, I don't know what size CF Express card to purchase, and a lot of that's going to depend on the bit rate of this little bit more compressed version of the RAW format. So I'm going to wait and hold off on that. But I can tell you that on this Samsung SD card, put it right there, the Samsung SD card has been able to record 8K in IPB, 4K 60 in IPB, 4K 24 and 4K 30 in All-I, and of course all other modes in All-I as well. So this Samsung card SD card has been huge for me. To be able to record 8K on this has been nuts. Has been nuts. It's the fact that this SD card, which is 512 gigabytes, and it's actually a micro SD card, a Samsung micro SD card right here. It's really, really tiny. So this micro SD card, I pop it on this converter, and on the R5, I'm recording 8K RAW, and that bit rate, not 8K RAW, excuse me, 8K IPB, and the bit rate for that increased resolution is over 600 megabits per second on an SD card that's UHS 1. It's not UHS 2. So it says I've saved a lot of money with that card, and it's super, 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 super nice. So David, I see your comment. You're saying SanDisk 512 Extreme Pro CF Express. I've had my eye on that. However, I'm thinking of going more towards a 1 terabyte CF Express card. A 1 terabyte CF Express card, and I saw it on, let me see if I could pull it up for myself. I've been looking it up. A 1 terabyte CF Express card has been what I wanted, because you could get almost an hour of, it's like 52 minutes or so, almost an hour of 8K RAW. And I've been looking at not pro grade or ultra. I don't have it here. Anyway, I can't see it, but it's about 1 terabyte. 1 terabyte will definitely do me good. So as far as I'm concerned, that's what I might get. But for now, 8K on that SD card in IPB compression, and you can barely tell the difference. And that's what I think is an amazing feature about this camera, is that, yeah, they say, yeah, you have to spend a lot on the CF Express card just to get the ability to record RAW. Still true as of today, but I've been able to do almost everything and push this camera to the limit with an SD card, except the ridiculously high bitrate 4K 120, which must be recorded in all I. SD card cannot do it. You have to use CF Express. And for my 120 frames per second footage, 4K, I've used the CF Express card, 64 gigabytes. Gives me a couple of minutes of recording before it's full. But when it comes to slow motion footage, that limit has been all right. So I want to show you guys something too. And it's kind of the other point of this video. I have recorded 8K footage, and this was recently. This was actually yesterday. I live in pretty much the eastern coast of the United States. West New York is what my town is called, and it's on the other side of New York City. So this area right now is getting pretty cold. It's fall. It's getting to that extreme. And because it's fall, it's starting to cool off. Now, Canon decided to release this R5 during the middle of summer. So, of course, they were going to get assaulted by everyone who was like, oh, you're going to have overheating and everything, and it definitely overheats. And Canon kind of had to update their firmware, because even the overheating timer was almost not controlled by temperature, and you couldn't cool it off no matter what. But when they did their updated firmware, there have been people online, and even myself, that when you use a fan on the camera, it's actually been able to last longer. In fact, I recorded 4K in HQ mode for almost 2 hours, an hour and a half about, when I was testing the camera, and it never overheat on me at all. And because of that, I was like, okay, this camera's overheating issues are not going to be that bad. And that was at room temperature. But yesterday, and I'm going to pull up a screen that I've got right now. This footage that you're seeing right here is actually 8K footage that I recorded the other day. I was walking, my subject, and this is for a video that I'll upload later, and I'll upload it in 8K too. I was recording to the SD card outside, talking about the upcoming firmware update that Canon's going to put out. Of course, if you're going to buy the R5, buy it for what it could do today. Don't wait for the firmware update. But I'm excited about the fact that we're getting C-Log 3, I believe, and we're getting a compressed version of RAW, of 8K RAW, which is nice. And then we're also going to get, from what I believe, better heat management in the camera, which is awesome. The last update was cool, and if they're going to even improve on that even more, that'll be awesome. So this is 8K footage. Yes, I'm scubbering through the 8K footage pretty fast, but don't think that my computer's that awesome that it's like, wow, it's like the only camera. No, I created proxy files. If you don't know what proxy files are, they're file types that you create smaller versions of the high resolution files that you have, so that when you edit, your camera, your editing software can have an easier time editing the footage without an issue. And creating a proxy file for me, especially since I have time to upload these videos onto YouTube, fine, you know, there's nothing wrong with pre-encoding. See, if I turn this off, it toggles and it goes to the original 8K footage. And then if I try to do this, no, we're not going to get smooth playback at all. In fact, I'm going to hit play and you'll see that.
What does that mean, and why should you care?
Okay, maybe it does play smoothly on my computer, but that lasts for a moment and then that's it. Because most of the time, again, it's not going to scrub easily. But I was recording, and this is after a few cuts that I did, and I was just talking outside, and it was colder. Actually, let me put on the
You'd have the ability
stop. Let me put on the converted.
to maybe use up less space on a card when recording raw footage, which is something that, I mean, it's crazy expensive on a CF Express card.
Yeah, so I'm basically saying some of the stuff that I said now. However, one thing I did want to mention is that this shoot took me a lot of takes. Now, this is just a few cuts, and this is like 8 minutes. When I started recording, the camera, I'm going to take it off this gimbal right now. The camera showed me by default. Let me unhook it right here so I could show you guys. The camera showed me 15 minutes, which is pretty much the standard when it comes to 8K recording on my SD card. 15 minutes, IPB compression, and then you're done. And that's from a cold start. That's from like when you've had the camera off, or you probably had a refrigerator overnight. I'll set it to 8K right now so that you could see what I'm talking about. 8K. Not even. Right now, it's not even showing that. I'll pull it up. Hang on. Let me get back to that screen. So it's showing 10 minutes. I've got basically 10 minutes to go of recording time. And my battery's almost dead too. But that's not limited by the SD card, because the SD card has plenty of space to record much more than 10 minutes. So that's the overheating timer. I showed 15 minutes when I was recording this footage that I was just showing you guys outside. And this footage was, I don't know if you could tell, but this footage, at least from this perspective, I recorded 8 minutes of edited, but it actually took me about 40 minutes. Hi, Layla. Nice to see you. So happy you're here too. I miss you as well. So I recorded probably about 35-40 minutes, maybe a little bit more, of 8K footage, because I did more than this shoot, though I just wanted to show you this shoot. And all of that footage, every time I would like do another take or turn it off, turn it back on, or do my next shot, the timer still showed 15 minutes nonstop. 15 minutes. And it was always showing me 15 minutes every time I recorded. And I wasn't even turning the camera off. It was just constantly 15 minutes, which was nice. And a couple of the takes took more than 15 minutes because I was just like hanging out and doing whatever I wanted to do. And it just wouldn't go down. which tells you that the camera is responding to outside temperatures and it's letting you record for long periods of time because it was cool. Now, granted, to get that unlimited footage, you're going to freeze yourself. But the fact that you can do it as long as you keep the camera cool is something to keep in mind. Was it unlimited? I thought it was. I didn't worry at all about shooting 8K footage for a long period of time. But the fact that you can do it was simply awesome. So if we could get some either more better software or firmware that actually can let you push the camera even further. But the camera does get hot, so the fact that you do have overheating warnings is important, because this camera, especially when you're recording a long time, room temperature or even hotter, it will get hot on you. So it has to stop. There's no question about that. But in certain situations, or if there's anything that you can add on to the camera that can cool it off, it would be a bonus and definitely necessary. Like I've seen actual like patents for like a converter, like an adapter. Like I have an adapter on the camera right now, but actually have an adapter that has like some sort of like cooling that can blow internally. Thankfully, well, I mean, not thankfully, but it would probably block the sensor, which is not a good thing. So how they would pull that off, I have no idea. But maybe something, or at least Tilta had advertised like an attachment on the back of the camera here to cool it off here. And this part does get hot, but it's mostly this side that gets really hot, thanks to the battery and of course the card slots. So I don't know. But when you're outside, if you got to record a cold wedding or situation, it's definitely something that you got to keep an eye on and watch over, because you can actually push this camera pretty far. And like I said, I've recorded 8K videos, just like you'll see. And actually, any chance I get to do a video in 8K, I'm going to upload it in 8K, fully recorded in 8K, because why not? When you click on my video and you could choose a higher resolution to get the biggest clarity and get that full sensor advantage, holy cow, I'm going to take advantage of that. Why not? It's totally fun, and I haven't had an issue, like I said. Panther Flow, congratulations on your R5. Sugus Fisher asked, have you tried to import 4K 120 frames per second into After Effects? I have a problem with that. I've tried with those sample files that you can download from internet. Best wishes from Indonesia. I can tell you that I have not at all imported any footage into After Effects with any of my R5 footage. I have not worked on an After Effects project in the last couple months. I haven't needed to, thankfully. One of the things that, and this is kind of like a sidebar, but I'll show you my computer again. One of the things that I tend to do when it comes to like a lot of my edits and to adding like different graphical effects is that I've used this graphics mode in Adobe Premiere. And this graphics mode has a lot of After Effects projects that you could simply add to your footage, and you could like tweak it from within Adobe Premiere. That saves you a ton of time and makes your stuff look a lot more pro, which is what I would use After Effects a lot for. Instead of using After Effects, I just go to Adobe stock, and there's a ton of free ones too. And all of these effects and stuff that you could add to your videos are not only free, but they're plenty in Adobe Premiere that takes the headache off of working on an After Effects project. Though I do occasionally do my own custom After Effects projects myself, it's nice to be able to just save a ton of time. And that's why I haven't logged into After Effects in a while, because it's just, I'd rather save time, especially efficiency, when it comes to editing videos. So Kazi Adil says 8K recording with no overheating internally in full frame mode. Yes. When I was recording outside, 8K IPB full frame, because that's all you can record 8K in full frame. Because it was the temperature was a lot cooler, and I'm recording like in almost freezing temperatures, I had no overheating recording for a long time with the Canon R5. It just worked. And that in itself is an opportunity, especially if you're filming outside and you want to record high quality footage and you don't want to worry about overheating. Well, you don't really have to, or at least I didn't have to, when recording 8K footage to the SD card outside. Like I said, I'll go back to my footage here. All of this footage that I had, now this is combined post edited, it was like 9 minutes. When I started, it said I had 15 minutes. When I finished, after about, like I said, like 45 minutes worth of filming, and I looked at the camera, it said I still had 15 minutes, and it never overheat the whole time, which was super cool. And I think that that's an opportunity. That's something, and that's an ability. And this matters to me too, is that since I didn't have the desire to purchase the A7S III, and that's a mixture of, predominantly, I haven't been too much of a fan of Sony's video specs in the past. Second of all, it still looks like they're trying to work on a lot of their usability as far as form factor and menu system. And the A7S III, though a wonderful video camera, I did need a camera for stills. That's why I leaned towards the R5. And R5 can still do 4K 120, but it can also do 8K, which the A7S III couldn't do. The fact that I can record 8K, this video right here, its quality, though, there's something to be said. I can tell you that while editing this video, I wasn't exactly happy with the quality of my shots, but it's because I was holding it, and this I don't recommend, but I was vlogging like this, holding the camera up front to me while I had the screen out, trying to watch myself using this very lens, and just kind of walking around like this and hoping for the best while I walked. I can't stand that, but yet I did it. It's because I had something to do, and I'm like, I could talk to the camera while I take care of this errand. But I was able to record in-body image stabilization in 8K to an SD card, something that the Sony A7S III can't do. It just can't. And I could get high resolution photos, something that the Sony A7S III can't do. And because it can't do that, I guess I feel happier about my purchase. And the fact that I did unlimited 8K recording made me feel even better about that purchase, because I knew that I was going on, and I found the key to at least being unrestricted with 8K recording. And there's not many situations where you can say that without spending tens of thousands of dollars on a high-end cinema camera that has fans built into it and is really loud just to record what you want to record. But I guess that's really where I wanted to come off tonight, and I wanted to thank everyone who joined this live stream. I don't have much more to say. That's all I wanted to get to. And this video that I've been working on, I'll probably release in a day or two, just so that you guys can see it. It's a lot that I'm doing lately because I'm working from home, and my job, my actual daytime job that pays most of the bills, besides this video stuff, is totally different. I do financial analysis for commercial accounts, So to do that all day and then switch completely head rolls to do this is like night and day. So wear too many hats, but I will release a lot more videos. I've got a lot more tests to come out. One of the ideas that I have is really comparing the standard mode in 4K and the HQ mode in 4K and seeing if you guys can tell a difference once I shoot a couple of B-roll shots to see if it really matters. And also another video that I wanted to do teaching you guys how to record a wedding with the R5 and never overheat and get all the slow motion shots that you want without worrying about overheating, all the high quality shots, everything, and never overheat. There are ways to do that, but some people would think it's impossible. Well, it's not. I'll show you. And actually, on that note, I'm not talking about when you're recording 4K for most of it, that you get the standard mode. It's like avoiding standard mode, getting higher quality 4K in a wedding and fast frame rates and everything like that. So anyway, that's coming up. But thank you for joining me on my live stream. If you found me entertaining and you haven't subscribed, I would love it if you did subscribe. We can get to know each other better. Always leave a comment to my videos and definitely hit that like button because I will get to you. Some of my other subscribers that have commented, I've tried to help as much as possible. If you have any questions, special shout out to you, Giselle. Congratulations on getting your gimbal, like I had my gimbal, working with your 5D Mark IV, and hopefully they'll release an update, or Zhiyun will release an update, so that your R5 can also work with your gimbal. But that's all I got to say. You guys are awesome. Thank you for joining me. See you guys next time. Bye-bye.